going to be a big enough ocean for more than one boat. I think we're just in the early innings of this EV story playing out. And that's why Tesla, I still think this is $1 trillion market cap over the coming months.
네, 안녕하세요. 메이저 시프트입니다. 자, 오늘은 시장 분위기가 좀 많이 안 좋게 끝이 났습니다. 저번 주에 금리 오르는 거에 대해 제가 살짝 불안하다고 얘기를 했었는데요. 역시 아니나 다를까 오늘도 금리의 상승이 계속되면서 오늘 밸류에이션 비싼 고성장주 위주로 장이 상당히 많이 빠졌습니다. S&P 500과 러셀 2000은 1%가 안되게 하락을 했는데요. 나스닥은 2.46%가 빠지면서 생각보다 큰 폭의 하락을 했습니다. 자, 그리고 오늘은 테슬라가 8.5%나 하락을 했습니다. 9월 23일 10.34% 빠졌을 때 다음으로 가장 큰 하락이라서 놀라신 주주님들이 많을 거라 생각이 됩니다. 자, 오늘 굳이 하락 요인을 꼽자면 비트코인의 하락과 금리 상승이라고 생각이 되는데요. 이 일론 머스크가 지난 주말에 비트코인과 이더리움은 비싸 보인다 라고 트윗을 했습니다. 그것 때문인가 비트코인도 10% 가까이 빠졌었습니다. 너무 단기간에 올라가서 그런 걸 수도 있지만 이 일론 머스크는 다 좋은데 트윗은 좀 줄였으면 좋겠습니다. 이 양반 거의 트위터 중독입니다, 이거. 암튼간에 비트코인이 그렇게 10%씩 때려 맞는 거 보고 변동성에 두려움을 느낀 사람들이 좀 떠났을 수도 있습니다. 제가 테슬라 비트코인 산 날에 롱텀으로 호재로 보지만 숏텀으로는 분명히 악재일 수 있다라고 말씀을 드렸었는데요. 오늘 그런 모습이 보인 것 같습니다. 금리도 하락에 크게 한몫을 했다고 생각이 됩니다. 그걸 보여주는 예가 성장주들은 다들 대거 하락을 했는데 반면 확실히 밸류 스탁들, 은행주나 정유주들은 분위기가 괜찮았습니다. 확실히 금리가 오를 것 같으니 미래보다 지금 돈을 버는 회사들로 자금이 투입되는 움직임이 조금 있었습니다. 개인적으로 저는 원래 장기 투자하는 종목이 떨어지면 더 담을 수 있어서 좋아하는데 오늘은 그래도 좀 너무 갑작스럽게 많이 떨어진 것 같아서 우리 다른 테슬라 주주님들이 걱정이 됩니다. 물론 저도 조금 더 담았고 캐시우드도 오늘 27만 주나 담았습니다. 약 2억 달러 정도 되네요. 암튼 오늘도 우리 주주님들 힘내시라고 웨드부시의 디렉터 댄 아이브스의 인터뷰를 준비해봤습니다.
Shares of Tesla right now, it is down nearly 5%. Profits from Tesla's Bitcoin investments, though, on track to outpace profits from its electric vehicles. The company's already made roughly $1 billion on paper. That's at least according to our next guest. Wedbush Securities' Dan Ives, managing director there. Dan, let's start with the case there because the $1 billion. In terms of profits on paper, certainly a significant return when you consider the investment was only announced a few weeks ago. And yet you look at the volatility of where Bitcoin is trading today, and that seems to point to sort of the risk that inherently introduced now because of the significant investment it's made in cryptocurrency. How are you seeing the payoff here between the risk and the volatility and also the profits that come with it?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, look, $1.5 billion that they've invested so far, about $1 billion in profit. And like I've said, that's more than all they made on EV vehicles in 2020. But that continues to be the double-edged sword. It's going to add risk to the story. And we're seeing that in terms of the volatility. But ultimately, it's forest through trees. In terms of where Tesla and Musk see Bitcoin, it's going to be a part of the Tesla story, not just from an investment perspective, but from a transaction point of view as well. And this just, in my view, just is going to continue to be a big part of the story going forward, especially as we go into this golden age of EVs.
Yeah, I mean, my question would be how frustrating that is maybe for an analyst who's believed for a while and has been right on kind of the upside here in Tesla. I mean, I imagine it's got to be a headache for you to now factor in these swings that are stemming from Bitcoin, and maybe how it could be, as critics point out, maybe a bit of a distraction in the Tesla story moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, but at this point, it's still contained. $1.5 billion. I think that's something most investors that I've talked to still view the goalpost there as pretty contained relative to the overall assets. And it's a sideshow. because ultimately the overall story here is the transformational EV story. 5 trillion over the next decade. And right now, it's Tesla's world and everyone else is paying rent in terms of EVs. But you see Ford, GM, others that are really going all in on EVs. And I think there's going to be a big enough ocean for more than one boat. I think we're just in the early innings of this EV story playing out. And that's why Tesla, I still think this is $1 trillion market cap over the coming months.
In terms of how you value Tesla, though, has that shifted at all? Is it really, if you look at the $743 roughly it's trading at right now, is it ultimately on the EVs, on the batteries? How do you factor in the Bitcoin investment in the overall price?
Yeah, so far, I still view Bitcoin as not being factored into the price. If that starts to be 3 to 4 billion that they invest or more, then that starts to be something more significant that you could factor in to the sum of the parts. But right now, we think China alone is worth $100 per share. And you look at what's happened there, I think Tesla is going to be on track to hit toward 800,000 units for the year. And that's really the story here. And I think Bitcoin will start to play more of a role as it becomes more of a bigger percentage transactions or from an investment perspective. But we still believe, although a ripple effect, less than 5% of public companies will be investing in Bitcoin over the next 12 to 18 months till at least there's more regulatory goalposts put in.
Yeah, I mean, is it going to take them upping their investment for it to need to be priced into where it goes? Because even just the size of it, as you rightly point out, was up pretty significantly. If you put in $1.5 billion, it's about 10%, right, or under 10% of their cash or cash equivalents into Bitcoin. I mean, if we continue to see a rally there, it's going to be a larger and larger piece of this company.
Yeah, and I think that becomes a slippery slope because going back to your other point, you don't want this sideshow to ruin the overall EV party. I mean, in terms of even where it trades today, you'll see stock down with Bitcoin down. But I think that's something, if it starts to get to 20% of cash, 25%, then I think it starts to become more front and center. But for now, it's really a greenfield opportunity, especially with a Biden green tidal wave on the horizon and where Tesla's positioned. I think that's where you're going to see these EV stocks that have taken a bit of a pause, and even what some of the Chinese players, NIO and others. But I think over the coming year, these stocks are going to be up significant.